This podcast is part of E2C Network, where we share the whole Auburn experience. David Housel described it best. We are living the whole of the Auburn experience. You can quantify it and you can qualify it through a variety of people, times, places, and things, experiences. But at its heart, at its core, it's all about the sports, the Auburn culture, and of course, the Auburn family. Because it's about family, members of that family got to be here. I'm your host, Kyle. Austin Scott back in the saddle with me after coming back from yet another sickness that ravaged the Scott household. Happy to have you back, sir.
Thanks for having me back. Good to be back. I am not doing this podcast live from the bathroom floor and or near in the toilet. And I'm happy to be able to say that. Missed you guys last week. Glad to be back.
Thank you for the graphic description of what you were doing when you texted me last week to give me the heads up to say, hey, man, don't know that I can do the show from this position that I'm currently constantly in. So it happens. And every once in a while, it's nice to take a little breather, but it makes us even more ready to talk about the Auburn experience. We've got a lot to talk about, Austin.
Oh, boy.
Let's get into it. Auburn potpourri, rapid fire, or as rapid fire as we can do things tonight. Let's see. Where do we want to start? I will give us, how about this? I want to give you a very quick opportunity to talk about the Aubie statue because I know that made you so excited.
Yes, I got to go. Well, I was out of town when the Aubie statue was unveiled. I was really sad, but I was visiting some family in the northern part of the state. But Aubie gets his own statue. It gets unveiled last Saturday. And got to go see it today. Took the boys, took Emily, and we made a little walk out of it and got to go see the Aubie statue. We were all dressed appropriately in our little Auburn Aubie shirts and got a little fam jam picture. I'll share that out on my social media outlets
such
later.
A dad using fam jam.
But it's cool. It's really cool, man. It's a little smaller than I thought it would be. Makes sense. We probably don't need to do it 1.5 size like Cam Newton is, but I would have been all for it. But it looks awesome. It's really cool to see it right there in the middle. A good friend of mine from college who's also a dad said, is it bad that I can only think about, hey, that's a great meeting spot. Hey, everybody meet at the Aubie statue. And,
exactly.
I think that will be used for years and years to come, but it looks really cool. I will tell you, Kyle, when we were walking over there, and I hadn't been really in the heart of campus for a while, something else you want to talk about was this Haley Concourse residency hall going up. Mm-hmm. And I mean, it's cleared out. There's a lot of green, lush grass over there, but I mean, soon it'll be a construction site. How cool would it be to live on the Haley Concourse?
Yes. And look, think about it this way. You actually have a reason to go over that way and avoid everyone trying to hand you a flyer if you're a student. Like you go behind and like go through the dorm, essentially to avoid all that. But you're right. That's exactly what I thought of when I saw the announcement. Rayburn General Contractors are the ones that do it. They do a lot of work with Auburn related stuff. And they're going to be bringing this to Auburn. I don't think we got a date. Am I right?
I don't think so. I'd imagine it'll be a couple years.
Yeah.
But man, it looks cool. It doesn't look out of place. There were some things there that were, I think a lot of people would always walk by and be like, what's in that building? And I think those have been I think those have been kind of allocated to other places. But man, that was honestly my first thought is how much more of a freshman experience do you get to be able to live on the Haley Center Concourse? I think it's awesome. I think a lot of freshmen are going to love that. And I hope that it ends up being really cool. I was impressed with how, and it might get worse as construction starts, how the concourse has stayed intact. That's a busy part of campus that has to stay usable, I think, but it's really cool. I'm excited for it.
Yeah, I'm excited to see what it looks like when it comes to fruition. I think that is also the beginnings of more to come for that area. You can do the math there, probably that means. But it is something that I would be very jealous of if I had an opportunity as a student to stay there, to overlook the stadium, Haley, to Melton Student Center, all just be in the hub of campus. That would be so much fun. So we'll watch that with close eyes and see what we can gather from the ongoing construction there. It's at least the groundwork started. I also want to talk now about basketball, but we're going to talk about the ladies first, who just completed their 2024 regular season, taking out the Florida Gators. And with the end of the regular season means SEC tournament time. The women's bracket is now out. Your Tigers are number 7 seed. And do you remember where they were last year, Austin, as far as seeding?
I don't. My guess would be a little lower than that.
I know that they were very low, Coach Harris's first year. I believe they were just shy of making it out of day 1 in the SEC tournament bracket. This year, they do. They get the first round bye, but in that second round, they'll be taking on Arkansas. If they are able to beat the number 10 Arkansas, who you think by seeding you would be able to beat, you would have another rematch with LSU. We split the matchups with them this season, beating Angel Reese and co at home. And then if you were able to do that, you would likely take on Ole Miss and eventually South Carolina. Not saying that's going to go that far, but the likely scenarios that you'd run into. The ladies keep moving up and climbing the ladder in the SEC and college basketball. Nice to see them as a number 7 seed.
Yeah, have a lot of momentum going right now. Really looks like they are going to get their own spot in the big dance. And that is exactly what you should expect from this program. I think the trajectory has been there. We've talked about it, over the last 68 podcasts at some point that this is getting to be things you're climbing. You're making certain progress points and checkpoints, continuing to make the tournament and make sure that's an expectation is one of those. So I think they're in. I think that they can only benefit their seeding. They lost a close one to Arkansas in the regular season, kind of right there at the end in Fayetteville. Hopefully they can get some revenge on Arkansas, and then it's a split in the rubber match against LSU. And this team's confident against LSU. They know they can play with them, and so I think they're in for a treat.
Yeah, I think they are too. It's going to be exciting. Again, just to me, the main thing I focus on is the trajectory of this program and where they seem to be heading. And I think seeding is one thing. How we'll see they seed in a potential NCAA berth is another thing. Just super excited for how we go forward. And we got an update in our chat here for those of you that watch live that it was the 10th seed in 2023. So continuing
that's a jump.
Literally swapping places with Arkansas, who's playing us this week. So we'll see how it happens. We'll be watching and we'll talk about it next week. I do want to continue to roll through some of these other ones I think probably got missed this week. And that's part of the reason I love doing Auburn Potpourri. SEC Legends. This is something that's been a lot more prominent lately. Obviously, Auburn's put a lot of SEC Legends in there. One of the ones that I think you wouldn't come to top of mind just because of all the great basketball stuff that's been going on of late, but Cliff Ellis. Our former head coach, 2 head coaches between Bruce and Cliff Ellis. I think that's right. He will be now named as part of the 2024 class an SEC legend. And I know I was going to say it seems about time, but he just now retired. So I think you wait probably till they've moved out of their career, but well-deserved, I think, for Cliff Ellis.
Oh, absolutely. And something, we've talked about before, Bruce is I think he has passed him by now. Or it's very close.
If he did, then they didn't make a big deal about it at all. So we'll have to go double
maybe
check.
Not. We'll have to check that. Maybe that was one of those that we thought maybe by the end of the year.
Yeah.
Regardless, it's coming up. But we've gotten to see Cliff Ellis come back to Auburn in the Bruce Pearl era, and so very cool to see that relationship is still there, obviously, and that he's being honored with Auburn by his name. So congrats to Coach Ellis, and that's really exciting and very well deserved.
I know everybody loves to talk recruiting, so let's bring up 2 topics for Auburn football and basketball. Auburn football, a little bit of sad news. Antonio Coleman for 2025 has flipped back. Now you heard me right, back to the Tide. Flipped from Alabama to us. Now has flipped back. So you got to think that's mainly because of the departure of our defensive line coach, Jeremy Garrett. And obviously he knew King Williams as well, being kind of the second in command at that position before getting promoted. And, it's sad to see that happen, but that means just another spot's opened up right there. Also the number 1 2025 Auburn basketball recruit probably, but also in the nation. I'm going to try to pronounce this.
Oh boy.
AJ DeBansta. AJ DeBansta. Probably didn't pronounce.
Give it to you.
You going to give that one to me? I did okay.
Yeah, that's fine.
Thoughts on that recruiting news?
Yeah, Antonio Coleman, I'm going to be honest. When he flipped, I was like, oh, cool. when he flipped to Auburn. Oh, cool. Yeah. Yes, but honestly, all I can think of is Antonio Coleman from the late 2010s and that defensive line. So I don't know a lot about Antonio Coleman. I hate that he has chosen the dark side once again, but time and time again, sometimes, Kyle, we chase evil things, and the Lord continues to chase after us. So we'll just hope that redemption and mercy finds him once more. That's all I had to say about that.
You're going to burst into flames right now with that, but you go right ahead.
Auburn basketball, how cool that I will never get over it, and neither should anyone else, that the number one recruit I don't care what year it is. I don't care if he's the number one recruit and he's 11 years old for basketball is coming to Auburn, Alabama as an option. And yes, if he's coming to campus to visit, it's an option.
Yes.
That is the Bruce Pearl effect in short. And so I think it's awesome. I hope you had a great time. I don't know how you're not going to have a great time in Neville Arena, even on spring break. So really cool. We'll have to see where that recruitment goes, and hopefully maybe he's playing in Neville Arena next year.
Still cool to see the number one recruit coming here and even entertaining, as you said, the thought of coming here and having a great time doing it. Continues to show the fruits of the labor that Bruce Pearl has put into this program, the fact that people are taking Auburn seriously, not just on the court, but even coming here to play on the court. We are out of time in Auburn Potpourri, but I will rapid fire give you a few other stories that happened this week. Sharif Cooper, former Auburn Tiger for men's basketball, got a 10-day contract in the NBA once again. We'll see if that works out for him this time around. We did want to talk about the Cam Newton fight, but it's probably just left better over there. He whipped some tail, whether you agree with it or not.
It looked like an SEC game in 2010. That's all I have to say.
That's all I'm going to say right there. Just leave it right there before we get ourselves in trouble. Great UConn series win from Auburn baseball. The Jane B. Moore Memorial is a sweep for the Auburn softball ladies, and plenty of other things that we didn't get a chance to talk about that we're going to maybe even touch on a little bit in our main topics here coming up about Auburn football in the spring. It's finally back, and we've got some men's basketball catching up to do. But first, let's talk about our friends at Magic Mind. And if you've heard me talking about them once, you've heard me talk about them twice, you're going to hear it again because I love these guys and they apparently love us. I don't understand why, but I appreciate them so much. If you guys are looking for a great source of energy and focus, there are a lot of options out there for you, but let's be honest, a lot of them are not going to be great for your overall health. We've got the alternative for you, and that's our friends at Magic Mind. They've got an option there for you in terms of trying to replace some of those energy drinks or shots out there that, as I said, maybe not give you, they may give you the focus and things like that and the energy thing that you may need, but this is going to be an overall healthier option for you. Very sensitive to allergies. The overall makeup of this thing is just going to be better for you overall. So please do check them out by visiting magicmind.com/Auburn and use the code Auburn, AUBURN, for 56% off that one-time, or actually that subscription, or you can do the 20% off the one-time purchase. And look, I've told you before about my family member that gave it a try who does have to deal with the symptoms of ADHD, and it's a much better option for them, he said, because it just doesn't aggravate some of those symptoms. So you can see right there, that alone is a testament in of itself. So please do check it out. magicmind.com/Auburn. Use the code Auburn, AUBURN, 56% off that subscription, 20% off that one-time purchase. It's here, spring football, and we are back on the field. Hugh Freeze, year 2, technically now. Would you consider this the official start to year 2? Or
yeah, I will.
Unofficially or officially, I guess. We have been on the field for about 5 days, essentially. A few practices. Have they actually got into like full pads yet? I think they're still what you would call shells.
Yeah,
have you seen any pictures in full pads?
I have not. I would agree. I think it's shells.
So 15 practices, I think, is what the total was. We talked about last week. If you guys were here, we did a Q&A and we discussed some of those things leading up to 8A, which is now going to be announced as 1 p.m. kickoff time. Can we all just right now please say prayers for, I'm not even asking for sun. I'm just asking for not an ounce of precipitation. After we got every fill of it that we could ever want last year. That's all I'm asking at this point. But for spring football, let me start with this, Austin. What is top of mind for you in these spring practices? Where does your focus go?
Oh, that's a great question.
Putting you on the spot.
Probably, I think my biggest, I don't want to say concern, my biggest, I don't know the word. The thing I think about most and the thing I want to read about most is how the freshmen are doing and how it's, they enrolled early for this.
Mm-hmm.
They want to be there for spring practice and to get themselves ingrained as quick as possible. With the talent Auburn should bring in and did bring in this past time, I want to see if those freshmen are going to be able to be contributors and help in the immediate. So that's where I'm always a little bit interested to hear news and think about what could be for Auburn in 2024. And then, I guess you could throw in transfers with that as well. If there are transfers here now, how are they set up? And then with the way the transfer portal is nowadays and that things are always on the move, what holes are still left to be filled. I think those are probably my biggest questions with spring practice. Not so much as positions that can change day to day, year to year, but just how people fit and what holes are left.
Yeah, obviously an advantage goes to these freshmen, but also the transfers who come in early and are able to start practicing right away in spring, which this year it feels like there's more than ever. And I think that's that continued push for the now signing day be truly the early signing day in December, which I know frustrates coaches don't know. And frankly, frustrates me as well. This is a busy time of year to be handling all that. Freshmen, who is going to rise to the cream of the crop? I'm just going to go ahead and say it. The big name, Cam Coleman.
He looks really big too.
He looks like every bit of the, 6'5". I forget his measurables at this point. But we've seen the images, we've seen the videos. You have heard everybody salivating literally every time they see him. I know that sounds gross, but I mean, there's some level of that's almost obsessive that I've seen on there. He's a big dude. He's looks every bit the part. Are we hyping this kid way too much? Not necessarily, not saying he's not going to be good, but like putting too much pressure already.
Probably. I mean, let's just call it like it is.
But I don't care.
Probably, but I think that in a sense, yes, he's 18. In a sense, that kind of with all the recruiting tidbits and rankings and measurables we get these days, it's kind of heaped upon him whether he likes it or not.
Right.
And so I think all those receivers, as hyped up and talented as they were, there's really big expectations for them. Perry Thompson's not here yet. I recognize that, but I think once he gets here for summer, he'll have the same type, of praise and attention around him. So that is who, if I had to give one newcomer, and that's probably taking the easy way out, that is who I'm excited to see and excited to see if he can contribute right away, because there might not be a person or a recruit that Auburn needs to come in and compete right away. Right. I think they're probably defensive line is where the area they need some people to compete right away. But as far as a person, Cam Coleman, I think, is exactly who Auburn fans are hoping. And hey, Auburn coaching staff are hoping can get on the field and make some plays.
And look, that whole wide receiver group is probably going to be the biggest storyline of the offseason and leading into the season too, whether it's about Cam Coleman. As you said, Perry Thompson's not here yet. I believe Malcolm Simmons not here yet. Bryce Kane is out there on the field too, and a lot of people are excited about him too. But people forget that you brought in, some very experienced wide receivers in Robert Lewis coming over from Georgia State. The quarterback turned wide receiver, Sam Jackson, who played in last year at Cal, is going to be here too. And then you've got some holdovers as well that are still around. Camden Browns, your Jay Fairs. I think I had this asked to me on a live stream. Who is going to be the person that, assuming Peyton Thorne's the starting quarterback, that is his biggest target? Who's going to have the most receptions? I think it's as much as people are excited about Cam Coleman, I think it's going to be Jay Fair, just because they had a great connection, especially early in the season going on. And look, Cam Coleman, he's going to be a big target for everybody, but he's also a big target for everybody to key off of. And so I think it's going to, just having him out there, open up opportunities for other wide receivers. So that's definitely a group to pay attention to. I think the second debates, if that's the biggest storyline, the other storyline that everybody wants to be there is the quarterback battle.
Of course.
Walker White is in here. Again, kind of similar to Cam, looks all the picture of the leader, the charisma, the moxie, the athleticism, and Peyton Thorne, who had a less than stellar year, but he's still got a ton of experience, and that's hard to beat in a guy like him. What do you think? Are we going to be able to see anything from this spring that truly shows that there is a quarterback battle or not?
I think that what we'll see will probably be if there was anything to see, we'll know by how Auburn plays the second portal area. I think that with, you mentioned Walker White and Peyton Thorne, there's still Hank Brown and Holden Gerner as well. I think if Holden Gerner doesn't leave, then that might say something that he might feel like he's still in it. He might feel like he has a chance. But I think if Holden Gerner leaves and if Auburn decides to, continue to dip their toe in the portal for a quarterback, then it might not be as confident as we think. However, Coach Freeze said this is Peyton Thorne's race to lose. Those are his words, not mine. And I think that that's important. So he does have the most experience. Coach Freeze seemed pleased with the leadership that Peyton Thorne's displayed since the bowl game. All those are the right things, and hopefully another system or another year in this system does Peyton Thorne good. I'm not saying he's going to be this individual. I'm not saying he's going to be any of these individuals, but you look at the history. I've said it before. You look at the history of this portal era. The second year for these portal quarterbacks is where the jump usually happens. Outside of a Caleb Williams or number one pick style guys like this. You look at
Bo Nix.
I was going to say I was
going
to save him. You look at Jaden Daniels, Joe Burrow, Bo Nix, Michael Penix. Those guys. That second year was the big one, and so we'll see. I hope that happens for Peyton Thorne. Auburn is going to be incredibly successful if that happens for Peyton Thorne, but that's to be determined.
Look, I'm excited about that whole room. I think we saw some stuff from Hank Brown, even in some what I call garbage time in a bowl game. That should show you that he's very capable. So if we somehow maintain all four of those guys still here, I'll be exact. I won't be like, oh, we've got the best quarterback room, but I will be very, very excited. I'm not expecting that just because I think some things will shake out. Only time will tell. You talked about the defensive side of the ball too. I think there's still a lot of questions over there too. Who's going to rise to the occasion and fill all of the talent that was lost on the defensive back side of the ball? Can I just name some of the names that we just saw in the combine? We didn't even talk about that in potpourri. We had some great combine performances. Nehemiah Pritchett, DJ James, Donovan Kaufman, Jalen Simpson, and who am I forgetting? Zion Puckett. And I feel like I'm still forgetting somebody. Kayan Lee's still here. Keontae Scott's still here. But after that, it's some transfer time to potentially step up. It's some younger players' time to step up. You talked about the defensive lineman. New coach, new scheme there for, I think everybody say maybe we know how to cover 4th and 31. What do you think? How you feel about the defense from what you can glean so early in spring practice?
I think the secondary room is really talented. I think there's a lot of youth, but I think there's a lot of talent there. It's a very intriguing area of the ball that I think Auburn's going to have to get right, but I'm not as worried about it as I am the defensive line. I think that Auburn's going to need some really big guys to step up there. And I would bet that is a very active area for the transfer portal after the spring practice window. I think they need bodies. I think that's kind of why that maybe that Antonio Coleman flip hurts, on even another level.
Yep.
Not that he'd play right next year, but to build that room up, that's a room that kind of is hurting Auburn right now. So, it's an interesting side of the ball. It's going to be an interesting year to figure out, a new defensive coordinator, not only a new defensive line coach, a new defensive coordinator to figure out his style of play and his scheme are all big questions. I think that, we love to talk about offense and receivers and quarterbacks and all that, but the defensive side of the ball might be the most, area we need to focus on the most.
Right. I think the answers are, when I say answers, I'm saying not right or wrong, but are more clear about what we're looking for on the offensive side of the ball. It's wide open, I feel like, on the defensive side of the ball. So a lot to shake out there still. One final note, and I'm just thinking about this as we head towards 8A, which is April 6th at 1 p.m. And I hope everybody will be able to be there. And like, as we said, better weather. Think about this. They split these guys up into, for Hugh did a little bit differently how they did the 8A game. But essentially, you could have two kickers now going against each other with, when I say legitimate chance, usually you just have one main kicker. But Towns McGough has been brought in, and he is a highly touted kicker that Lane Kiffin wanted and lost out on. I digress. But that would be interesting to see them go at it with, how proficient they both seem to be. Towns just got here, but he's got a strong leg too. I'm not saying there's a kicker controversy. Please don't hear that. McPherson is our kicker, but I would love to see them go at it like in a kicking competition as some kind of like exhibition match in the 8A game.
Look, we love our special teams. Kyle and I are not just offense and defense people, but literally only you would bring up the kickers when talking about spring practice. In somewhere where we have someone who was perfect last year, you bring up the kickers. And make up some fake competition that you're putting Alex McPherson's job on the line.
I did not say that. Do not.
That's what I heard.
That is not what you heard whatsoever.
Kyle's pulling for the hometown boy.
Here's what I heard is Lane Kiffin wanted him. Well, actually, they probably say they didn't want him now. And that to me gets me super excited that we stole somebody from them. And
Kyle wants the Magoo guy.
Cannot hold on. There is plenty of opportunities for Towns to find a role in this team as a backup punter, as a kickoff person, and as the backup kicker overall. Here's what it's kind of like I said about the quarterback room.
Watch your back, Alex.
I know that's not what I said. I feel good about the entirety of that room, kind of like I said, quarterbacks.
I love you, Alex.
I do too. That's not what I said. I knew you were going to do this to me before he gets me in.
Probably because you're short. He doesn't like short people.
He is pretty short. I'm not gonna lie.
He is.
No offense, Alex.
He's probably taller than me. No offense. That's what you say. No offense to Alex about.
No, look. 8A last year or 2 years ago when he was a walk. I know he wasn't a walk on. He was a freshman and he redshirted. He walks out of the tunnel and I went,
"Oh no,
who's the 10-year-old?"
It doesn't help him that he's following the gigantic Carlson brothers. Who are just well over 6 feet.
In terms of kickers, they are Nephilim. There's a biblical reference for all of you. All right, so that's a little bit of preview of spring ball. We will have lots more to talk about. I don't anticipate us having major updates for spring ball outside of this, but of course, as we kind of lead up to 8A, there will be some things to discuss, and we will certainly do that. Let's do some Auburn basketball updates. After this, Austin, the updates will really be about postseason and talking about.
You know why?
Why is that?
It's March, Kyle.
It's March Madness, baby.
We sleep in May. It's March.
We sleep in May. Of course, John Rothstein, or how do you say it? Rothstein? He says that like back in November. We sleep in April or whatever he says. March Madness is the most wonderful sporting event
I love it.
Ever.
I've already planned my first day.
Okay, we'll talk about that another time. You're going to get me distracted here. This is about Auburn basketball right now. Plenty to happen leading up to March Madness and Auburn's place in that. Since you and I last got together, I can't remember where we missed last week together, but we've had yet another up and down time with a loss to Kentucky. You bounce back and get some wins that you very much needed. Let's talk about the Tennessee game.
Yeah.
You talk about March Madness. We just watched a March Madness game.
Absolutely.
Tennessee fans, for the most part, have been very, well, I won't say humble, but understanding and appreciative of when we did our reaction streams for that, just talking about how good they are. But Auburn is pretty dang good, too. It took one of the best performances from their best player at their place to stave off two major comebacks from the Tigers, who did not have a completely 100% Jalen Williams. Yes, he was out there, but you can't tell me he was 100%. And nearly took down them in Knoxville. Folks, if you are one of these people that's panicking after the Florida game, after the Kentucky game, you have to look at the whole picture. That Tennessee game showed you what these Tigers are capable of. I don't know about you, but I was pumped after that game, as pumped as you can be after a loss.
Yeah, I was really impressed. We have talked about Auburn's struggles on the road, playing really good teams, but struggling on the road and to win away from Neville. Um, you know, they played incredible, and the SEC Player of the Year hung 40 on them, and that's really what it took. But Auburn matched and matched and matched until they just couldn't hit one more than Tennessee could. And so I was really impressed with the team. I really, really wanted us to get a win there, but it was as good of a SEC game as you can get. It was the game of the week. It was the game of the night, and it lived up to every part of it. I hate that we couldn't win that game. I think we would be talking about Auburn's chances of an SEC championship right now if we did. But it was a incredibly great game, and Dalton Connect is an incredible player, but there was nothing to be ashamed of for Auburn coming out of that game.
Now, this is not a conversation of moral victories. This is a conversation of reality. And Auburn's a very good basketball team. Are they perfect? No. Are they the most consistent team? No. But who is in college basketball this season if you've been paying attention? Dalton Connect, wow, just wow. And we'll just leave it at that. Mississippi State, this is a game where Auburn had every excuse to be in a letdown mode and upset at home. Mississippi State is not a team you want to take lightly with Toulouse Smith and that phenom freshman. His name is Hubbard. Thank you. That's escaping me at the moment. But took care of business at home. Never really were in danger with them, but you could see opportunities for them to come back. And Auburn, with that win, not saying you can drop the last two games and feel completely secure in that, but that was kind of one of those last bigger hurdles to get over to get to the postseason. Again, not dismissing Missouri, who has yet to win a game. Georgia, who got their butts handed to them, literally put their tails between their legs and showed it to them at their place. What do you think is going to happen at Neville? I said it. Clip it if you want to show it to me after if I'm wrong. We could talk about that, but I do want us to spend some time talking about the sad part about this, and that is our friend Lior Berman. Lior, and this one pains me because it feels like we just get kicked every other week at this point with potential bad injuries, whether it was Jalen, that seemed like it was much worse than it ended up being. But then we had literally another piece of the heart and soul of this program. And yes, Lior Berman is not the most prolific scorer, the most prolific defender, but he has consistently, since he has been part of this program, earned more time, minutes, respect, not just as a shooter, but as a defender, as an all-around game. And he was having such a great game with this Mississippi State opponent. And on a drive, which isn't the typical thing for him, he goes down and we come back and he's on the ground just slapping the hardwood in pain and in anger, knowing exactly what had happened. And your heart goes out to Lior Berman, who will now be out for the rest of the season and end his Auburn career because he's a fifth-year guy. And he had announced as much today. Austin, man, how do we deal with this?
It's terrible. It stinks, and there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. It's an incredible story. It's one we all as sports fans love to hear. The kid works his tail off to get on, as a walk on the team, works his tail off to earn minutes, and works his tail off to get a scholarship, and is a pivotal rotational piece on this team looking to win a championship.
Right.
In his fifth year. We are suckers for those kind of stories. And then when it's an Auburn kid and a kid who just grows to love Auburn, we love it even more. And so I hate it for him. My ACL started tingling the minute he went down. And my own restructured knee was hurting for him. And I hate that that's what it ended up being. But you have to love that he has, poured his self into the program and believed and worked hard to earn everything he's gotten. And I hate it for him. I'm not saying this as something that I'm glad it happened this way, but I am, you look back at while it was much later in the year when Chuma Okeke went down, how it kind of rallied the team and how they were able to win a couple more games without him. I have a feeling the way, and we've already seen some of the reaction from the players on their own social media pages. I have a feeling this will have a similar effect and they'll be able to rally around him. I hope he gets to be with them, whether it be surgery or not. They gets to be with them throughout the duration of the season, or, wherever Auburn ends up going. But I hate it for the kid. I hate it for the team, especially, Lior helps this team. But I just hate it for him and to see it all kind of taken away so suddenly.
You saw the messages from his teammates. KD is one that comes to mind. The rest of the season is for number 24. Saw one from Jalen, who was almost in this same situation. This one is for Lior. And I think that needs to be the rallying cry. And not saying that we needed motivation other than that, but this certainly should rally the team further around that. And it pains me. It pains me to see a guy like this have to have his story in this way. It's kind of like that. Maybe this is not the right analogy, but that what's the red badge of courage kind of thing, that type of book. I get a little choked up over here, man, about this.
See that?
No, but I just have a lot of respect as a former walk-on myself. I never earned a scholarship, but I know the efforts that it takes to even be a walk-on and sustain that. But to win a scholarship, earn significant playing time, and be a threat to score.
Yeah.
Respect, man. Respect. Finally, as just kind of like rounding out this conversation, we look towards tournaments and stuff. Yes, 2 games left. Not dismissing you guys. I'm saying that again, but we're kind of looking that way. We were asked earlier where we see ourselves seated in the SEC tournament or the NCAA tournament. I think we're pretty well locked into a double bye, barring a fall apart for the SEC tournament. Probably going to find ourselves, if you take care of business and maybe even get 1 win at the SEC tournament, in that 4 seed. Any quick thoughts on just what you see in the early look ahead to postseason?
Yeah, I really hope Auburn gets a double bye in the SEC tournament. I think this week there's going to be some things that need to happen, and Auburn needs to take care of business. That's the best way they can give themselves a chance at the 4 seed. But I think that's going to be the case. I don't see them below the 5 in Nashville. And we can debate this another time, but honestly, sometimes I worry about that the whole too much time off versus go ahead and play in thing. I feel like, that's a debate for another day, but, but as far as the NCAA tournament, I think Auburn, they might be a 5 right now with different projections and bracketologists and whatnot. I love that word. I just love that we actually made up some word to have a science about college basketball brackets. Bracketology. This is America right here.
I want to major in bracketology.
Oh, I did. I don't have a degree for it, and there is no job that I could. But come March, I was majoring in bracketology every year. But I don't see Auburn below a 4. I think they'll get there. I think, like you said, winning a couple games, maybe 1 or 2 games in Nashville helps them. But they take care of business this week. Show who they are in Nashville a little bit. I think Auburn ends up on that 4 line.
Yeah, and regardless, it doesn't matter how you're seated. It just matters what you do with that seating. And we've seen Auburn teams in the past do that. Still a lot to play out and still a lot to look forward to as basketball regular season winds down and March Madness begins. So excited. That's going to do it for episode 68 of the Auburn Experience podcast. We appreciate you joining us and being part of the show. We would love to connect with you. You can do so with me on X at Kyle Loomis 24. Mr. Scott, where can they find you to wish you well for not getting sick this week?
Yes, you can find me on X at Austin G. Scott, Instagram at Austin G. Scott. I'll be sharing our Fam Jam hobby picture here soon. So everyone can see the twins and my beautiful wife. You don't want to see me, but you can see the other.
What do you want? You must be trying to win back some brownie points right now. That's what
it sounds like. You can never have, that. You can never have too many brownie points. You got to cash those in for something one day.
Cash them up, store them up, because you'll need them at some point, folks. Take that advice. Thank y'all for joining us. Until we talk to you again, War Eagle.
War Eagle.